ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. My name is Paul Brummel. I'm the British ambassador to Romania. I can see some familiar faces in the audience, and great to see plenty of new faces as well. So the purpose of this evening is really to do two things, and the evening will divide naturally into two parts. So the second part will be a very nice event to designate Shehzad Rizvi on the front row here as our first ever, or at least first in recent times, honorary consular agent here in Cluj, and you'll hear more about that role and about some of the things we think about Shehzad a little bit later.
Got some comments.
But the first part of the evening will be about the UK's exit from the EU and what it means for British citizens living, working, studying here in Romania. We're really delighted that we have Alex McKenna from the Department for Exiting the European Union, based in London, who's very much working on these issues with us today. We'll be talking later, and to be able to answer some of your questions. Also really pleased that we have our consul based in Sofia, Paul Clark, who's here together with Teodora Maneva, the vice consul also based in Sofia but covering Romania as well, who will be able to answer questions about the consular services, so the kind of non-Brexit issues, the kind of consular services we provide for British nationals. I thought I'd start by saying a little bit about Brits in Romania, because I think for me one of the great pleasures and one of the great privileges of being British ambassador in Romania has been to meet some of the Britons, some of you working and living in this country, and to learn more about the contribution that you're making to Romania, and whether that's to do with charitable work or whether that's to do with business or English teaching. I think the story of British and Anglo-Romanian charities in helping Romanians in need of support is a really remarkable one. Many organisations trace their roots back to the aftermath of the Romanian Revolution. So I started as a British ambassador in August 2014, and before that I spent a few weeks of immersion language training in Iași. Part of that training I took a trip up to the town of Siret near the Ukrainian border, where I met with the local mayor. And the director of the language school, who was quite a fierce lady, had kind of called up the mayor's office in advance and said, only speak to him in Romanian. And it was quite early on in my immersion language training, so my fluency wasn't all that strong. So kind of in short, I struggled to keep track of everything that was being said, and it was quite a hot day, and the glass of affinata that had appeared from the mayor. And anyway, one way or another, my mind was starting to wander a little bit. And then as happens, it suddenly kind of snapped back into place when I realised that the mayor was talking about Annika Rice. And I kind of hadn't really thought about Annika Rice very much for the past 20 years or so, but certainly hadn't been expecting her name to come up in a conversation in rural Romania. But what I sort of then discovered was that Siret had actually been the location of one of the really notorious communist-era orphanages, whose dreadful conditions had only become clear after the revolution, and it had been the setting for a really moving episode of the TV series Challenge Annika, as she and her team had been working against the clock to improve the facilities there. But what was in many ways more remarkable for me was to discover that there's a British charity, it's called Ono Viața, still working a generation later in Siret, still providing family-type accommodation for those now adult former inmates of the orphanage who will require lifelong support. And for me, during the subsequent 3.5 years of my posting in Romania, I've got to know Brits doing great charitable work right across the country. Taken toys and clothes to UK-supported orphanage in Hurja in the Carpathians. I've joined Ian Tilling, other supporters of Casa Ioana in Sleeping Out in Bucharest to draw attention to the plight of homeless people in Romania. Cut the ribbon at the opening of the Casa Lumina palliative care facility in Bacău. I bobbed unsuccessfully, completely unsuccessfully, packed for apples with the young British volunteers of the Libra Foundation at a summer camp for disabled Romanian children in Onești. I seem to remember donning a piratical bandana to support the work of Asociația Little People. supporting children with cancer, wore a black foam nose which looked suspiciously like the end bit of a microphone in support of canine welfare, and in a moment of madness I think I've just signed up to do a 5k run in support of the Bull Heritage Association Monumentum, which if you look at me, you know that's the toughest challenge of all. There were some 35 British and Romanian NGOs participating in our charities fair at the Queen's birthday party last year, and I think it's the work of these organisations that makes me really proud and really humbled to be the British ambassador here. But the contribution of British citizens in Romania is not confined to charity work, and I've been really struck when visiting British companies across Romania, including many right here in Cluj, that there are businesses right at the cutting edge of this country in terms of providing employees with attractive modern offices, good packages, and a clear and sustained commitment to CSR. And there are many Britons working in teaching as English language teachers, including with the British Council, or in a wide range of fields at some of the top schools in the country, helping to train and develop the next generation of Romanian leaders. Other Britons have chosen Romania as a place to settle for its beautiful natural landscapes, helping to preserve traditional villages through sympathetic restoration work. You see a lot of that here in Transylvania. Yet others are here simply because they met and fell in love with a Romanian partner. And what more better reason could there be than that? But of course there was a big event on the 23rd of June 2016, the referendum vote to leave the European Union. It's of course the role of government to deliver on the result of the referendum in a way that provides the very best deal for the UK and for the EU. Our Prime Minister, Theresa May, has been clear throughout that safeguarding the rights of EU citizens in the UK and securing reciprocal protections for UK nationals in the EU was her priority, her first priority in the negotiation. The agreement reached between the UK and the European Commission on the 8th of December delivered on this, allowing you to continue living your lives broadly as now, providing a level of certainty about residence, healthcare, pensions and other benefits. And the UK and the European Union will now continue discussions to include the agreement on citizens' rights in the overall withdrawal agreement between the UK and the EU. But I know there's going to be a lot of questions about this, about the details, what has been agreed and what you can expect, and that's why we thought it would be really timely to invite Alex to answer your questions. I hope you have a really enjoyable evening, and I think I will pass now to Teddy, to Teodora Maneva, who will talk about consular services and what we can help you with. But thank you.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you for coming today. I understand that some of you have come from a long way to here to hear from us. I just want to focus on one thing, that actually the British Embassy is here to help and advise you, no matter if before, during and after Brexit. So our consular services will exist for all of you. And I just wanted to tell you more about what we can do for you. So one of the things we are here for is to give you proper advice and sometimes direct you to the local authorities or to help you liaise with the local authorities if you have a problem. I see that most of you have already businesses here, so I'm sure that you are pretty much, have your own connections within the region and speak to the local authorities yourselves. So what we are providing as a service is usually if you have lost your passport, for example, we can issue an emergency travel document to travel back to the UK. We can issue it both ways, so that you can come back to Romania and then apply for a full validity passport. What we can also do for you is if somebody was hospitalized, a friend of yours or yourselves, or somebody died in Romania, a British national, we can help with providing assistance, contacting the local authorities, maybe contacting also family, friends back in the UK. We can also assist when somebody is a victim of a crime, or when you need more information on local lawyers, on doctors, or if you want, of course, to get married or to get a certified copy of your passport, we are also there to help. I will just focus on our team in Bucharest. We have two colleagues called Elena Benescu and Julia Gavriła, and I've put some of their business cards on the back. So when you are going out of the hall, you can actually take some of our leaflets, find out in more details what we can and cannot do for you. I wouldn't waste more of your time on consular assistance, but I would like to say that we are always here to help, and if you email us or contact us at any time, we work from 9 till 5, but also out of hours you can reach us. There is a special team in London who are trained to help you and also to pass all the information back to us. We do some prevention campaigns, and what I wanted to say is if you want to follow on what we are doing, you can follow us on Facebook, also on Twitter. I know that our ambassador here is very active on social media, so you will find more about what we are doing also on social media. But also Travel Aware is something if you want to subscribe for. This is where you can get more information on what's new, and if there is anything that we would like to warn you about, it will be on our travel advice. But I would like to give the floor to Paul Clark, our consul here, to give more information on the consular side. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Teddy. Thank you. I mean, those are the basic things that we do on the consular side. We're one of those kind of sections within the embassy that you don't really want to see, because people do tend to come and find us when they're in trouble. But if you are in trouble, we are there to help. And it's a very good, very professional team that we have in the British Embassy in Bucharest. And we certainly appreciate the work they do. I just wanted to add in a couple of bits, kind of semi-related to Brexit, in terms of what we do on the consular side. In terms of our core work, we're not expecting any changes. So what we do now, in line of what Teddy mentioned in terms of emergency passports, support for when you get in trouble, if you're arrested, if you go to hospital, if those terrible things happen, that will remain the same. It may be there may be slight differences in some of the notarial stuff we do, but at present we're not expecting there to be any major changes. The main message I've had from colleagues in London on the consular side is really for those of you who are resident here, who are living here, is to make sure that your registration, that you're all fully up to date with your registration here in the country. So when we hit the Brexit date, then your status here is regularised as can be. And the other kind of message, although I'm not aware of any issues here in Romania itself, is whilst we're still a member of the EU, obviously everything that you do, how you register yourselves, how you live here, still remains in accordance of the current rules as an EU member. And none of that should actually change whilst the UK is still a member of the EU. So if you do have any issues, if you find you're dealing with authorities or an organisation where you're maybe not getting the service that you would expect, and the excuse being is that the UK are leaving the EU anyway, so we're going to do it differently, then please let us know. Like I said, I've not heard of any issues along those lines, certainly here in Romania, but it would be of interest to us if anything like that should occur. And generally, I think, as Teddy mentioned, we produce travel advice, we do a lot of other alerts. Generally, life here is trouble-free compared to a lot of places that we deal with overseas. I think that's it. Is there anything else I've missed there, Teddy? Both Teddy and I will also be here at the reception afterwards, so obviously we can field questions here. You may have a few more for Alex, but if you want to speak to either of us separately about anything, then we'll be around as well. Okay, thank you. I'll hand over to Alex now.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you to the Embassy for organising this event this evening, and for everyone here for turning up, and hopefully I can be of some use this evening in, oh yeah, we've got two mics on.
Sorry.
and answering some of your questions on citizens' rights. So I'm Alex from the engagement team in Department for Exiting the European Union. Within the engagement unit in Department for Exiting the European Union, I lead on engagement with Romania among 5 other member states. But tonight I'm here to give you a broad overview on citizens' rights and the agreement that the UK reached with the Commission in December that we will hopefully implement through the withdrawal agreement, which is currently being negotiated. So throughout the process of the UK's exit from the European Union, we've looked to engage with our nationals across the EU to better understand the challenges that you face and to discuss the issues surrounding our exit and to reassure you about your rights going forward. I know that many of you will be concerned about what Brexit means for your future here in Romania, so it's vital that we have these sort of opportunities to talk to you directly, and I hope that this evening's event can go some way in doing that. So the objective is to bring you, the community, together with the UK government, whether that's me and colleagues from the Foreign Office here in Romania and the consul based in Sofia. You've already heard from our Ambassador Paul and our consuls who have discussed the importance of the expat community here and the historic legacy of that community and our services that we provide to British nationals via our embassy and diplomatic network. I'll say a few words on what we've agreed with the EU before moving on to questions where hopefully I'll be able to address your concerns directly, although I should say with the caveat that I'm a civil servant, not a politician, so I won't be able to answer every single question. Hope you'll understand and appreciate the context to that. So first let me just spend a few moments updating you on the deal that the government has secured on citizens' rights. So in December last year we reached the first important milestone you may have read in the press in the process of leaving the European Union. That was reaching sufficient progress in the negotiations. You would have seen from the reporting that we reached a fair settlement on the budget, agreement on the issue of the border with Ireland, and a fair and reciprocal deal on citizens' rights. In December we published a 15-page progress report known as the Joint Report, setting out in detail what we've agreed with the European Union. The agreement on citizens' rights was the largest chunk of that report, setting out line by line what we agreed. Don't worry, I won't read every single detail out to you, but it is available online if you want to check that out in more detail. And the headlines is that we will guarantee the rights of more than 3 million EU citizens living in the UK and the million or so British citizens living in the EU. And that includes the rights of thousands of UK nationals right here in Romania. So as Paul has already outlined, go living on your lives broadly as before. So also confirmed in the withdrawal agreement is the ability to see your social security contributions aggregated for contributions made before and after our exit. And on higher education, we'll agree that equal treatment principles will continue to apply, meaning that UK nationals in the EU who arrive by the specified date will continue to have access to universities on a comparable basis as they do now. I know that there are a few medical students, I think, in the audience this evening, so that'll be of interest to you. We've also agreed the right to export the relevant benefits to both EU member states and the UK will continue as under current rules. In terms of frontier workers, there are many important economic rights that we want to protect. For example, we agreed that frontier workers will be able to continue to exercise their rights as they currently do. So for example, if you live in Romania but work in Bulgaria. And we've also agreed to continue to recognise professional qualifications which have been obtained before our exit. And to ensure that families will be able to stay together after the UK's exit, we've agreed to allow close family members to join after exit on the basis of current EU rules, where the relationship existed at the point of the UK's withdrawal. All family members lawfully resident with a UK national at the point of the UK's withdrawal will also be protected. Those will also include children born before or after exit to parents protected by the withdrawal agreement who will be entitled to join them. And finally, we've agreed to enshrine these rights, as I mentioned briefly earlier, into a withdrawal treaty, which will take the status of international law, so you can have full confidence that your rights will be protected. We think it's a fair and reciprocal deal, and the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, agreed in December. It guarantees that UK nationals in the EU and EU citizens living in the UK before the date of the UK's withdrawal will be able to continue living their lives as they do today. So to conclude, I hope this update is reassuring about your status here in Romania and help explain some of the complexities, and I'll try as best I can to answer any of the more technical questions that you have, either now or in the discussion afterwards. We really appreciate the chance to come and talk to you, not just myself, but the embassy and the consular teams here. And it's really important that we ensure this dialogue between UK nationals in the EU and the British government continues, and that these sorts of events are a really good way of doing that, and we'll certainly be looking to do more of these as we continue our withdrawal process. So if I'm unable to answer any questions on the panel, I will try my best afterwards. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Alex, thank you very much. I think, are we asking the press to leave at this point, just because we were concerned there may be questions based on people's individual circumstances, but do gentlemen of the press, don't go too far, because we've got a very nice ceremony a little bit later.
We'll be awaiting behind the door.
Behind the door with a glass of wine. Perfect.